Well, after sitting out 3 days of stormy weather in Lewistown, Montana, which we really like Lewistown, Montana. It's a beautiful little town. But we're back on the road again, and we're in Grassrange, Montana, which is still in central part of the state. This place says they have homemade pie, so we're going in to check it out. Okay, 1 slice of strawberry rhubarb and 1 slice of blueberry, and that's a thick slice of pie.
Wow, yeah, they look really good.
They do look good.
Look how much filling is in there.
I know, it's really big. A lot of filling in. Look at this slice of rhubarb. It's huge. Well, sometimes we like to camp in the forest, and sometimes it's just nice to be out in the middle of nowhere. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We're up north of Roundup, Montana, on Bureau of Land Management public land. It should be peaceful tonight. Tonight the sun will set over in this direction. That's the big snowy mountains in the background there. It ought to be a beautiful sunset. In fact, we were headed for the National Forest up in the big snowy mountains and just kind of started driving through a lot of BLM land. And you know how we like to camp in the desert, wide open, and that's kind of what we got here. It's not desert, it's definitely wide open. Well, this was the home, and still is the home, of the Blackfeet Indians. This is a piece of work stone, just laying on the ground. If it is a tool, it's a really, really, really old one. We're talking thousands of years, if that's what this is. You can see it's worked around the edges. A little bit. Always like to know who's been in an area before me, whether it be man or animal. So I told you when I asked you to marry me, I said we'd go far. And when I was a hippie and I said far out, now you know what the heck I was talking about.
Can you imagine walking for days and days and weeks and months, and every day it looks like this? There's more walking coming, and then you look ahead and there's mountains you gotta go over. Man, those settlers and people in the wagon trains, they're tough.
A lot tougher than us. That's a given. It's BLM land on the other side of this fence too, so this is public land over here. You know, this is supposed to be the best grassland in Montana, right where we're at, according to a man by the name of Granville Stewart, who traveled through here by horse and by buggy. He searched all over Montana, the entire state, looking for the most perfect grass, till he found the grass that had the most protein in it even when it was dry. And this is it. That's why they call this Grassrange, and or the Grassrange area. This is where he settled and had his first ranch, from what I know. Well, if you watched Lonesome Dove, and didn't we all, maybe several times, those cattle they were bringing up here was to settle places like Montana and Wyoming. So the ranches land was free for the taking out here for the most part. Well, you had to homestead it and settle it up. But then there was the cattle barons like Granville Stewart. I don't know, they bought land like crazy. Many, many thousands of acres. I was on a ranch. Linda and I used to do a firearm competition called the Matthew Quigley Buffalo Rifle Match down in Forsyth, Montana. And the ranch where that event is held every year is something like 418,000 acres. I know it's over 400,000. That's a cattle ranch in Montana. A small ranch here is like 12,000 acres. Speaking of Granville Stewart, cattle thieving was met with a real harsh punishment, just like you see in the movies, where they strung you up from the nearest tree. Now, these ranchers out here, from what I've read, they tolerated some cattle rustling from the Native Americans, especially in the wintertime, when they were just taking a head or two or a few head of cattle for food. And from what I understand, the cattle ranchers just turned a blind eye to that because they knew that the people were starving during the winter. But a cattle thief that was stealing cattle and running them up across the Canadian border and selling them, that was another story. That was a different thing. And from what I understand, Granville Stewart's ranch managers, caught up with a cattle thief along the banks of the Missouri River where he was living, and actually had some of their cattle there at the time. And they tried him right there on the spot. Didn't take much, and they hung him right in front of his family. They made a movie about that, so I know it's true. Aren't movies all true? No, it is true though. Back when the pioneers were making their journey across this area of Montana, can you imagine walking all day long, every day, week after week, and the weeks turned into months, and every day the wind never stops blowing? That actually drove some people crazy, being so tired and the wind never stopping. There's a mountain range in Montana called the Crazy Mountains, and I believe it used to be called the Crazy Woman Mountains. And it was from one woman who got so despondent, she walked away from the wagon train, and that's where they found her body. And that was a long way from where she walked away, but the wind just drove her crazy. And that happened to a lot of folks. It's a well-known phenomenon from those days. That's actually hard for Linda and I to imagine, sitting here and watching the wind on the grass and the sun on the grass and listening to the birds sing. There's beauty everywhere you find it, and we find beauty here. Well, I found something laying on the ground here. It's a flint from a flintlock rifle. They pretty much stopped using those by about 1840. So this could have been laying out here from mid 1700s to mid 1800s. And you could tell by the shape, let me hold it, this shape right here, for you firearm enthusiasts out there that love your flinters, and I sure love mine. That's a flint. It's made out of local stone, the same stuff that's just laying around here on the ground, the crystalline agate stuff, and it just got too short, and so he threw it away. That's the leading edge right there. So he threw it down and put in another one, because you keep napping them as they chip off at the front. You kind of nap a new edge on it. This one just got a little short. So maybe this was off an Indian trade rifle, or maybe the infamous 50 caliber Hawken. Of course, you're not allowed to hold on to anything like this off of public land. You can do it off of private land. So this one's going back on the ground. You guys can come out here and find it.